Hello, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Christine. I like to read dark and disturbing things, and today I have a book review for you of Philip Fracassi's Gothic. Let's check it out. So I have only read one thing by Philip Fracassi before, and that was this book, Beneath a Pale Sky, which I'm pretty sure I got from Nightworms. It is a short story collection, and I absolutely loved this short story collection. I don't really usually love short stories. I feel like they're usually hit or miss for me, or there's a couple of pretty decent stories in there, but you have to really work to get to them through a bunch of boring stories. But that was not the case with this. Everything was so vividly written that I felt like I could see and feel everything that was going on in these short stories. And I just absolutely love it. I highly recommend it. So this was a few years ago that I read this. And so when I saw that NetGalley had a chance to read Philip Fracassi's newer novel called Gothic, I jumped right on that. I got approved. Thank you very much, NetGalley. And then, of course, I waited forever to read it for unknown reasons. That's just the way I work. But I did finally get to it this month, and I'm here to talk to you about it. And let's find out what this Gothic is all about. So Gothic is about a writer who is in his late 50s. He has had a successful career in the past, but it seems like his career has already peaked. He's had bestsellers, but it has been many, many years since then. And basically, he's expected to keep churning out the same stories and having the same effect, decades later, where the audience is not quite the same and things are not quite the same. So he's like feeling pretty low about himself. He's feeling low about himself as a writer. He's aging. He doesn't love the way he looks. He's going through that time of being almost 60, and his publishers are really putting a lot of pressure on him to write another hit story. And he financially really needs to make that happen because he spent all his money. He needs to have enough money for his daughter to go to like an Ivy League college and be successful. So he really feels the pressure to make this happen. So he had accepted in advance based on a pitch that he had given his publishers that he was going to write such and such a story, and he just has not been able to make it happen. He's already spent that advance, and what he comes up with is something entirely different that he is wanting to explore as a writer. You don't want to write the same things over and over. He wants to explore new avenues, new genres, and they're just not having it. They're like, nope, you need to give us what you promised and make this happen. Otherwise, you need to give us that money back. So right off the bat, I'm really sucked into this story because it's very self-aware. It's discussing basically how do writers, or any artists for that matter, musicians, how do you grow with the times? How do you go through decades-long careers and be expected to write or make up the same songs or the same books and keep making your fans happy, but times are changing. What flew in the 70s or 80s doesn't necessarily fly today with today's culture. So how do you make that happen? How do you stay relevant? And I mean, it's brilliantly done. I don't always like reading about writers. When a writer writes a book about writing a book, sometimes it just, I'm not a writer, so it doesn't always land with me, but I really did appreciate this, especially probably because I'm a bit younger, I think, than Philip Fracassi is, but having been a fan of books then and now books now in the horror genre, and just how things have to change to kind of stay relevant. So the plot of our story really begins when our main character's longtime girlfriend, who is almost basically, it's like his wife. They've been together forever. She is like a mother figure to his daughter, and she decides that she's going to go out and get a great gift for his 59th birthday. Now, she comes from a family of money, and he never wants to, take advantage of that. So he wants to make his own way through life with financially. He doesn't ever want to ask her for anything, but she has the money to go out, and she finds this one-of-a-kind, antique, ornate, beautifully old Gothic desk. And she's like, he's gonna love this. He's had the same desk since he was in college. That thing is falling apart. It's not serving a purpose. And maybe this will be what he needs to just kind of like act as a muse and get him, you know, excited to write again. So she gets this one of a kind desk, and soon after he receives this as a gift, he starts acting a lot different. So he becomes a little more violent. It does serve its purpose because he will sit at his desk and be in his room for hours and hours and kind of like wake up from this trance, realizing his fingers are sore and bloody from typing so much. He's written, you know, hundreds of pages, and he has no memory of it. So it is like this desk is writing a story, using him to write a story to get out there. Now, this desk has a bit of a past. Not the entire desk, but the top of the desk has been used in some sacrificial ways. People have been sacrificed on this hundreds of years ago. It has this very evil, dark past. And so this desk is basically evil. Now, when I started this book, I thought, well, how could an evil desk really be that scary? Like, it's a desk. It is. Philip Fracassi does such a good job at describing everything about this desk and what exactly happens. I don't want to get into it because that was some of the best parts of the book, I thought. But really getting into how this desk is using our author to spread its evil through him. So some of the things I really liked were the horror scenes were very graphic. I enjoyed them. They were a good time. And this book is also very self-aware. Like I said, there are so many references to Stephen King in this book. Stephen King himself, characters from his stories, and I love that part of it because I grew up reading all of those things. So that was a fun time, and just probably a nod to Stephen King, being that he has been writing for so many decades and has kind of followed almost the path that this character has, where he's had some really big hits. He's had to stay relevant. He's been expected to churn out book after book of the same thing. If he writes another book of another genre, people are kind of put off by it. So just the whole, that aspect of being an author and having to grow with the times and stay relevant, I really appreciated that. This book also kind of reads like maybe a book from the 70s or 80s, which I think is going to people are either going to like or they're not going to like. I personally kind of liked it. I felt like this book was very dark and twisted, and it didn't pull any punches, and I appreciated that. I liked that. There was one part though that I have to mention I did not like, and I think this is going to be kind of the major issue that most people have with this book, is that I don't usually look up trigger warnings or anything before I read books, especially horror. I'm here to get triggered. I'm here to be shocked. But there is a scene where one of our strong female characters is sexually abused, and it's very uncomfortable, which it should be. And I don't think that it was really necessary. And I know that horror is not always about being necessary, obviously, right? It's gratuitous. It's to go over the top. It's to push you to the edge and beyond. But so I can get over the fact that the scene was in the book. What I couldn't really get over was the reaction that this character had, and I don't feel that it was true to this character. This is what made the book feel kind of old-fashioned in not a great way. So our very strong female character goes through this, and basically afterwards it's just like, you know what? He's never done anything like that before. This is so out of character for him. And I think that's what it was supposed to be showing, right? That our main character has had such a change in personality and is doing things he would never do in a million years. He's never had an ounce of violence in him. He's never treated her in such a manner before. But for her to just be like, you know, oh well, that's just how things go, I guess. You know, you take the good, you take the bad. And it was just, what? Like, no, I do not believe that this character would have handled that. And I don't think that she had to for this book. I think that had she, you know, left him or done something, it would have shown the consequences of how much he has changed and what he is willing to deal with as far as the outcome. So I did not like that. And I think it's going to turn a lot of people off from this book. But now that I've had time for it to, now that I've had time to like marinate with having read this book, it was over a week ago, it doesn't quite bother me as much as it did then. And it's not like the memory that I have of that book is not that scene mostly. It is the book as a whole. And I did enjoy the book as a whole because I did really like, the ending was phenomenal. I felt like the pacing was very good. I was invested in these characters. These characters felt very real from the start. And I just had a great time with it. I liked how self-aware it was, very tongue-in-cheek at times. So I did really like this book, but that did definitely bring it down for me, and I think it will for a lot of people. So what did I rate this book? I kind of struggled between a 3.5 and a 4-star, and I feel like it's a very low 4 or a very high 3, so kind of like a 3.8. I'm going to give it a 4 for Goodreads, but I do think if they had made a few little tweaks, it really would have brought this up a notch and not had such a, left a bad taste in my mouth over that certain scene. I will say that Philip Fracassi has cemented himself as an author that I would like to read more of between Gothic and this book. I do have another one on my Kindle and another one that just came out. I don't want to screw up the titles of those, so I will post them up here so you could see. And I have heard that those books are even better than this one. So I hope to get to them soon, and I will let you know what I think. So definitely, I think this is an author to check out if you haven't already. Let me know, have you read any of his work, and what's your favorite if you have? And have you read Gothic? Do you agree with me or not? I like to hear all sides, and maybe if you see something that I didn't see in this that would help me understand that particular scene in a way that's a little bit different. Oh, I almost forgot. There was another thing towards the end that happens with his daughter that seems like they were building it up to be more than what it was, and I didn't really understand why that was in there as well. It felt like the author just kind of tacked that on at the very end to lengthen the book for some reason, which I didn't fully understand. It like they needed to go further into detail with that or cut it out completely. So that also kind of took off maybe a little bit of my rating on this story. Overall, I think this is a title to check out if you like horror, especially old school horror. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on about this book, probably incoherently. I hope that it encourages some of you to pick this book up or pick up this author and check out some of his work. So thank you for watching, and as always, stay spooky.